Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to present the subject matter of the tax reform bills submitted to the National Assembly by Mr. President, as reviewed by the League of Northern Democrats Technical Committee. As you can remember, 2 weeks ago, the League of Northern Democrats set up a technical committee comprising of experts in taxation, fiscal policy, legislation, academics, and the law. The committee did a good job of analyzing these bills and the key principles underlying these bills, and made its preliminary submission and recommendations. At its position with regard to the President's tax reform initiative. This submission is what we are about to make public presentation shortly in this hall as our business day. The proposed tax reform initiative of the President is a bold attempt to address Nigeria's long-standing challenges with fiscal inefficiency, a narrow tax base, and inequities in revenue generation and allocation. Collectively, the 4 bills seek to broaden the tax base, simplify compliance, improve revenue collection, and strengthen fiscal federalism. These reforms, if properly implemented, have the potential to transform Nigeria's economy, unlocking opportunities for growth and development. However, while tax reform is undoubtedly overdue, the bills have raised significant concerns which must not be ignored. Key issues include the following: equity and burden distribution. Questions about whether the proposed measures ensure fairness in taxation, particularly for small businesses and lower income groups. 2, implementation feasibility. Concerns about the capacity of tax authorities to efficiently implement and monitor the new provisions. 3, impact on the informal sector. The potential risks of alienating informal sector participants through overly aggressive taxation policies. And 4, revenue allocation. Whether the reforms adequately address the imbalance in revenue sharing between federal, state, and local governments. And lastly, risk of overtaxation. The danger of stifling economic activities by overburdening businesses and investors. Ladies and gentlemen, the League of Northern Democrats believes that if these concerns are effectively addressed, the tax reforms could position the Nigeria's economy for sustainable growth and fiscal stability. However, if these critical issues are overlooked, the country risks facing catastrophic economic, social, and political consequences that could further deepen existing challenges. We urge all stakeholders to engage constructively with these bills, ensuring that they are refined to reflect the realities and aspirations of all Nigerians. As we delve into the technical committee's detailed report, we hope to shed more light on the way forward for these crucial reforms. I wish us all fruitful deliberations after listening to the technical committee's report, which will be subjected to discussion, and we welcome your contributions, your objections, your corrections. Our intention at the end is to produce a report of a consensus of across-board members of the society and present to the National Assembly, where the bills are now lying for the consideration of the legislators.
Article 1, Clause 8, 2 of the United States of American Constitution, it made provision for what is referred to as a commerce clause. If you look at that of India, it's found in Article 302 of the Indian Constitution. The Chinese have their own in Article 11. And if my memory has not failed me, all that they did was to alter it and say, the attitude of the state towards capitalist industries and commerce is to use, restrict, and then transform the economy. So tax issues have always been problematic, and you know, in most civilized societies, they determine where the pendulum will swing in terms of election. But you will be surprised that the framers of our constitution were wise enough to omit commerce clause in our constitution, and it was deliberate. In the three examples I have given previously, every American citizen sees himself first and foremost as a citizen of the United States of America. An Indian equally sees himself as an Indian. And therefore, they have no issues about what is called fear of domination. But the uniqueness of Nigeria is that we first and foremost see ourselves as Efik, Hausa, Fulani, and all that. And therefore, it was found dangerous to introduce a commerce clause in our constitution. It was deliberate. So what the framers of our constitution did is to introduce what they call the economic policy of the state. And that was reproduced in Section 16 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And if you have the opportunity, please, I would want you to carefully look at that provision when you go back home. You know, the disturbing aspect is that in Nigeria, once you have microphone and these young men and women in the fourth essence of the dream are facing you, you have the convenience of calling yourself an expert. And then you are seen as such. But you see, to speak to data now is so easy that an average person with average intelligence can conveniently tell you where the pendulum is and where it is likely going to swing. So when we were constituted, we did a thorough examination of our situation. And we said, before coming into this report, let us give this preamble so that people will understand from where we are coming from. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I will take a little bit of your time to read Section 16 of our Constitution. Now, Section 16 is very clear. The heading is Economic Objectives of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and I read, the state shall, within the context of the ideals and objectives for which provisions are made in this Constitution, harness the resources of the nation and promote national prosperity and efficient and dynamic and self-reliant economy. B says, control the economy in such a manner as to secure the maximum welfare freedom, happiness of citizens on the basis of social justice, equality of status and opportunity. And then it goes to say, without prejudice to its rights to operate or participate in areas of the economy other than the major sectors of the economy, manage and operate the major sectors of the economy. D, it says, without prejudice to the right of any person to participate in areas of economy within the major sectors of the economy, protect the right of every citizen to engage in any economic activities outside the major sectors of the economy. Say, the state shall direct its policies. This is very important now. The state shall direct its policy towards ensuring the promotion of planned and balanced economic plan. Listen to these two keywords: planned and balanced economic development. B, that the material resources of the nation are harnessed and distributed as best as possible to serve the common good. I want you to understand. And then D, that suitable and adequate shelter, right to food, food security, reasonable national minimum wage, and that, and that, and that. But the most important side is C, that says the economy of the country must be run in such a manner as not to allow the concentration of wealth in the hands of few individuals or groups. So this is our own commerce clause. It's couched in such a way that it places obligation on those in authority to make sure that in whatever they do, this is reflected. So with that now, I have provided the background for you to understand where we are coming from. I will now read the main report. The federal government, in continuation with its economic reforms, has approached the National Assembly with 4 bills, bordering on tax reform and fiscal policies, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill, the Nigerian Revenue Service Bill, the Nigerian Tax Bill, and then the Tax Administration Bill. As expected, the bills generated public interest and debate, particularly in the areas of conflict with certain sections of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria as altered, and it affects the collection and redistribution of VAT to the federating units, federal, state, and the reasons for the reform, while the public, aware of the hardship experienced following the twin policies of subsidy removal on energy and foreign exchange liberalization, with social support coming too little too late, is suspicious and critical of further economic reforms. Now, the League expects to see tax reform as a component of a wider economic reform efforts necessary to broaden the narrow indirect tax base, improve on the low tax collection efficiency, work back on excessive tax exemption, i.e. 4% of GDP lost in 2021, improve on tax compliance and public morale, among others. The Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee was constituted to look at these broader issues around tax administration efficiency and fiscal space. In retrospect, we observed that most of the top 10 tax and excise duties presently contributing companies in Nigeria were established between 1992 and 2011 due to economic development programs embarked upon at that period. Now, what we are trying to say, the top paying companies that are paying VAT today, they were not in existence. They were only in existence from this period. And therefore, they came about as a result of economic policies of government. What it means is that with the right economic policies, you will multiply this kind of people, which will increase your tax base, and of course, tax when collected transform to revenue, and that will help you to achieve what you are trying to achieve now without causing unnecessary pain on the citizens. Investment promotion efforts are necessary not only for expansion of the tax base, but the creation of jobs and generally improving the livelihood of people. Indeed, growth in public sector revenue is more about growing the tax base than increasing the tax rate. I don't know whether you understand what that means. If you have 10 people who are paying you, let's say 1,000, you will now have total of 10,000. It's better for you to take that 10,000 than taxing two people who will give you 4,300 naira. Isn't it commonsensical? So that's what this is trying to say. So examination of the four bills. The League examined the bills before the National Assembly and provide an overview of its opinion based on the following criteria. 1, promotion of national cohesion. 2, compliance with constitutional provision. 3, promotion of national development and growth. And D, promoting inclusiveness and federal character. Corporate governance of the institutions responsible for tax administration. The Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill, as far as we are concerned, is intended, A, to provide for a legal and institutional framework for the harmonization and coordination of revenue administration in Nigeria. Provide a mechanism for efficient dispute resolution, promote the right of taxpayers, and it also intends to establish 3 key institutional structures to achieve the objective, and that is the Joint Revenue Board, the Tax Appeal Tribunal, and Office of the Tax Ombudsman. Observation and recommendation. The League observed that provisions of the bill, when passed into law and implemented, can achieve the objective of harmonization and coordination of tax revenue administration in Nigeria. We are of the considered view that the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill may be considered for passage by the National Assembly.
My name is Dr. Umar Ardo. I'm the convener of the League of Northern Democrats, and I came along with our colleagues to set up this event so as to enlighten our people on the issues raised on these tax bills. Most of our people are not aware of the importance of taxation. No nation on earth will grow its economy without clear taxation. In fact, the contract between a citizen and a state is based on tax. The tax. Any citizen that doesn't pay his tax is not a good citizen. So we are in consonance with government that we need to review our tax policies. However, there is also the principle of first things first. We want the reviews of this tax, but at the same time, we do not agree with certain things. We need the parameters for collecting tax to be dealt with first. And that is the essence of what we are doing here, to enlighten our people, to see that there is need for taxation, but also to point out to government that there are certain things that you cannot do now. And there are certain clauses inside these tax bills that are inappropriate, that, as put in by the committee chairman, inelegantly couched. And even if these tax bills are passed into law, the government cannot implement many of them because most of our economy is on an informal base. So this is the essence of what we are here. So first of all, the federal government needs to formalize our economy. As you heard, about nearly 60% of our economy is informal. You cannot build an economy on the basis of an informal economy. That is one. Then two, the federal government must have to take into account the sensitivities of our culture and our religion. The inheritance tax, which has been discussed here, should be expunged completely because it infringes on the laws ordained by God Himself, and that is both for Muslims and for Christians. It was enacted in 1979, but it was repealed in 1994. This one clause in this tax bill had brought back inheritance law through the back door. it won't go well. So, and so many. So we will give you the recommendations, as submitted by these experts, and you have seen them. Virtually, they are more than qualified. Doctors in accountancy, doctors in economics, doctors in law, so legislators and so on. So this is it.
First of all, we have opened the space of conversation and broadened the perspectives with regards to the understanding of the bills, and in the midst of the heated debates and arguments in the mainstream and, of course, the social media. Now, we want to see a state of equilibrium in terms of the distribution of resources between and among the federating states, the federating units of the nation state. And we want to see an understanding. Of course, everybody has to pay tax. It's a global phenomenon when it comes to the administration of nation states. How these taxes are collected is not necessarily the issue, but the distribution, the equity, the fairness that comes with the distribution has been always the debate. So take, for instance, the issue of TET fund. We insist that, TET fund should be retained as it is. The development levy that is 2% should be retained and given solely to TET fund. This will have an impact instantly on our educational system. Because when you remove TET fund, you need to go to all the tertiary institutions across the country, and you can see the intervention real time. So if you want to, address the issues of out-of-school children, for instance, then you need to improve on the issues of educational intervention. And we believe that TET fund should be retained, and NEL fund should be a unit or a directorate under, TET fund. The other issue, of course, is the distribution that you see in the Lagos or the Southwest template, and that of, the Southeast or South-South. Now, if you look at Imo State, is worse off. How can you say the whole of Imo State gets about 26 million in October this year, while Lagos State government has, one local government in Lagos State alone, the list has 900 plus million. So we believe in the League of Northern Democrats that we should look at these figures, because we are a nation state, that works on fiscal federalism, where each and everybody has to take from the equitable share of the resources that we in this time, in this aspect, consume, not necessarily allocated. And then the issue of derivation, which of course has been discussed. So by and large, what we've done is to come up with this, discussion to broaden the perspective, the understanding, the debate, so that Nigerians will not just go blindly on the issues that are germane to our own coexistence. We should work with data, we should work with knowledge, we should work with empirical submissions that can be tested and trusted at any point in time. And it is not about even the Tinubu administration. It's all to do with it, quite all right, but it is about our own sovereign wealth, our own commonwealth. And I believe that this kind of discussion will only help the Nigerian state and the existing government in understanding and addressing the core issues involved with the, revenue bills. Like I said, their bills are inelegantly drafted. If you give a legal draftsman these 4 bills, he can reduce them into probably 50 pages, all right? And so there is an overload of literature. And also the issue of, stakeholding. I think the government needs to broaden the tentacles of contact, because contact removes conflict. If Nigerians are aware, if Nigerians come on board, if Nigerians are engaged, it won't be a question of having misgivings, having misinterpretations, and having all sorts of negativities.